Imagine this. You've been chasing her, texting her first, always making the effort, always trying to impress. And then suddenly you stop. You pull back. You no longer give her the constant attention she's used to. What happens next often shocks people. Because when you ignore her, when you reclaim your focus and detach yourself, she will respond in ways you never expected. Sometimes she becomes more drawn to you. Sometimes she tests you harder. Sometimes she even respects you more. Now, here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, were not writing about dating or female psychology, but they were writing about human behavior. They understood desire, attachment, power dynamics, and the importance of emotional control. They knew that our greatest strength lies not in controlling others, but in controlling ourselves. So today we're going to connect Stoicism to modern relationships. We'll look at what happens when you ignore her, and more importantly, what you should learn from it. Because ignoring her is not about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your inner peace, your independence, and your power as a man. Let's dive into 10 Stoic lessons that explain exactly what happens when you stop chasing, and how to live with strength, self-respect, and clarity. Lesson 1. Desire reveals power. Dynamics Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. When you constantly chase someone, you hand them your power. Desire, when uncontrolled, makes you a servant. The more you want their approval, the more they control you. When you ignore her, not out of bitterness, but out of calm self-control, you shift the balance. You remind both yourself and her that your happiness does not depend on her responses, and that shift is powerful." Practical application. Next time you feel the urge to double text, pause. Ask, am I acting from strength or from neediness? Write down your emotions instead of acting on them. This separates impulse from reason, one of the most profound lessons from Stoicism, and one that applies directly to relationships, is the way desire influences power. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." In those few words lies a timeless truth. When you give your desires unchecked freedom, you hand over your strength. And in relationships, this dynamic becomes even clearer. Desire creates imbalance in any interaction between two people. Whoever desires more holds less power. This isn't manipulation. It's human psychology. When you crave someone's approval, attention, or affection, you become reactive. Your emotions rise and fall based on their actions. This imbalance is visible in dating. The man who constantly texts, calls, and seeks reassurance is perceived as less valuable. The person who remains calm, detached, and focused on their own life is perceived as strong. The Stoics understood this imbalance deeply. Epictetus warned his students that desire, when directed at things outside of our control, leads to slavery of the mind. The Stoic view of desire, the Stoics divided things into two categories. Within our control, our thoughts, judgments, choices beyond our control, the actions, feelings, and choices of others. When you desire something outside your control, like another person's attention, you are, in a sense, enslaved to it. Seneca expressed this bluntly. A man is enslaved to whatever he cannot part with that he thinks he needs. If you cannot endure her silence, her distance, or her lack of attention, then your inner freedom has already been lost. Modern psychology confirms it. In modern relationship psychology, there's a concept known as the law of least interest. It states, the person who cares less about maintaining the relationship holds more power within it. When you're constantly seeking, craving, or chasing, you are broadcasting that you care more, and people instinctively sense this imbalance. Desire makes one person the pursuer and the other the gatekeeper. When you reduce that visible craving, when you ignore her not from spite but from composure, you shift the dynamic. Now she begins to wonder about you, to invest more, to reconsider her own position. Why desire weakens. You unchecked desire does three dangerous things. It clouds your judgment. You stop thinking rationally and start reacting emotionally. It lowers your value. People value what is scarce, not what is abundant. It creates dependence. Your mood rises and falls based on her actions, making you fragile. The Stoics would call this a surrender of your prohairesis. your ruling faculty, your inner command center. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you should not be distracted by desire. Everything that belongs to the body is a stream, and what belongs to the soul is a dream and vapor. Ignoring desire restores power now. Here's the paradox. When you learn to master desire, you don't become cold or unfeeling, you become powerful. By withdrawing excessive attention, you create balance. By ignoring her temporarily, you send the signal, not to her but to yourself, that you are not dependent, and that shift radiates outward. She feels it. She notices it. People naturally respect those who carry themselves as whole and complete, not those who are desperate for validation. Practical Stoic applications. So how can you live this lesson in modern life? Pause before acting on desire. When you feel the urge to chase, wait. Ask, am I acting from strength or from neediness? Journal your attachments. Each night, write down what you felt you needed that day. Then ask, is this within my control? Replace craving with creation. Instead of obsessing over her reply, create something. Write, train, study. Channel desire into discipline. Guard your availability. Value your time. Don't give it away cheaply. When your presence is rare, it becomes more respected. Final reflection: desire unchecked enslaves, but desire mastered empowers. The Stoics did not tell us to kill desire entirely, they told us to discipline it, to recognize when it takes us hostage, to reclaim our power by focusing on what is truly ours, our mind, our actions, our choices. When you ignore her, not out of cruelty, but out of strength, you remind yourself that your peace is not for sale. And that ultimately is the deepest form of freedom. Lesson 2. People value what they work. For Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. When you give constant attention, you flood the market. It becomes cheap. She doesn't have to work for it. But when you pull back, when you let silence exist, she begins to invest more. In female psychology, scarcity increases value. When your attention is scarce, she must earn it. And paradoxically, this creates respect. Practical application. Stop being always available. Don't answer instantly. Live your life fully. Schedule your priorities first. Gym, work, reading, passions, then relationships. In our relationships, careers, and personal lives, one principle consistently holds true. People value most what they've had to work for. When something comes too easily, it often goes unappreciated. But when effort, struggle, and sacrifice are required, the reward becomes far more meaningful. This isn't just modern psychology, it's timeless wisdom. The Stoic philosophers understood this deeply. Seneca warned against wasting life on things we take for granted. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to value the present moment, because it can slip away at any time. And Epictetus taught that real worth lies in what requires discipline, not in what is freely given. Let's explore why people value what they work for, with insights from Stoicism, human psychology, and practical modern examples. Scarcity increases value when something is scarce. Our minds instinctively place a higher value on it. That's why rare gems, limited opportunities, or difficult achievements feel so rewarding. Stoic connection. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Consider how much more you often suffer from your anger and grief than from those very things for which you are angry and grieved." He was reminding himself that people often overlook what they already have while craving what's missing. Scarcity makes us mindful. Modern example. Think about a job promotion. If you worked long nights, studied extra, and truly pushed yourself, that title carries weight. But if someone handed it to you without effort, you wouldn't feel the same pride. Practical advice. Stop giving away your attention and energy too easily. Whether in relationships or work, let others earn your time. When effort is required, respect naturally follows. Effort creates emotional investment. When someone works for something, they become emotionally tied to it. Psychologists call this the IKEA effect. People place more value on things they've built themselves, even if imperfect. Stoic connection. Epictetus taught, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. When we earn something, we appreciate it deeply because the journey satisfies us more than the possession itself. Modern example. In relationships, when someone invests in you, calls, shows up, makes sacrifices, they naturally value you more. But if everything is handed to them, they'll take it for granted. Practical advice. Don't always overgive in relationships. Let people invest in you too. Relationships are stronger when both sides contribute effort. Abundance breeds complacency. What comes easily is often undervalued. That's why people lose interest in relationships where one side gives too much without requiring effort. Stoic connection. Seneca said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." When things come freely, our craving for novelty replaces gratitude. Modern example. Think about streaming music today versus saving money to buy a single album years ago. With abundance, people skip songs carelessly, but when music was rare, every track was precious. Practical advice. Protect your own value. If someone doesn't appreciate what you freely give, step back. Allow space so they realize its worth. Struggle builds. Meaning Stoicism teaches that challenges give life depth. If life were effortless, there would be no growth, no story worth telling. Stoic connection. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Difficulty makes things meaningful. Modern example. A relationship that survives distance, financial struggle, or misunderstandings is often stronger than one that has never faced a test. The struggle itself builds value. Practical advice. Don't fear challenges. See them as a filter. Those who truly value you will endure difficulty to stay connected. Work creates ownership. When people work for something, they feel it's truly theirs. This sense of ownership breeds loyalty and care. Stoic connection. Epictetus warned against wanting things that aren't yours to control. When you earn something, you own it, not just physically but mentally and emotionally. Modern example. Someone who saved for their own car drives it more carefully than someone handed a free luxury vehicle. In relationships, the same applies. When someone puts in effort, they own their role in it. Practical advice. Don't rob others of the chance to contribute. If you're always doing everything, they won't feel invested. Let them earn their place in your life. Conclusion. People value what they work for because effort transforms worth. Stoicism reminds us that easy gains are often illusions. Real strength, meaning, and appreciation come through discipline, patience, and challenge. So whether it's in love, friendship, or personal goals, remember, give, but don't overgive. Allow others to invest. Protect your energy by making sure it's truly valued. Because in the end, when people work for something, they don't just receive it, they respect it. Lesson 3. Self-control creates mystery. Epictetus wrote, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. When you ignore her, you create space. That space breeds curiosity. She wonders, why isn't he chasing? Why isn't he reacting? And here's the Stoic insight. You're not doing it to get her attention. You're doing it because you've mastered self-control. You're free from the chains of constant validation seeking." Practical application. Practice delayed response. Don't answer instantly to emotional triggers. Use silence as a tool, not passive-aggressively, but calmly, with intention. Lesson 4. Emotional independence attracts respect. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If your mood rises and falls with her messages, you've surrendered your inner citadel." The Stoics call this prohairesis, your ruling faculty. Guard it. When you ignore her, you're saying, "I am whole without you." That independence is magnetic. Women respect men who don't crumble when attention is withheld. Practical application. Build a life so full that her absence does not create emptiness. Journal daily. What today is fully within my control. Lesson 5. Testing is human nature. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." When you ignore her, don't be surprised if she tests harder. She might push your buttons, flirt with others, or challenge your calm. Why? Because testing is a way to measure your strength. Stoicism teaches that these tests are gifts. Each one is a chance to prove mastery over impulse and emotion. Practical application. When she tests you, don't react emotionally. Smile, breathe, and continue your path. Train yourself to see tests as opportunities, not threats. Lesson 6. Indifference is power. Epictetus taught. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you stop reacting, when you remain calm in her silence, her games or her unpredictability, you stand out. Most men chase harder, beg, or grow angry. The Stoic man remains steady. Indifference doesn't mean you don't care. It means you don't depend. That difference changes everything. Practical application. Practice neutral face. When tempted to overreact, breathe and maintain composure. Cultivate hobbies that absorb your energy so you're not obsessing over her. Lesson 7. Respect is born. From Boundaries, Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Ignoring her is not about manipulation, it's about establishing boundaries. If her behavior crosses your standards, your silence speaks louder than anger. It says, "I respect myself enough to walk away." This earns respect. Women notice men who don't tolerate disrespect. Practical application. Define your standards in relationships. Write them out. When they're crossed, respond with calm withdrawal, not rage. Lesson 8. Attachment breeds suffering. Buddhist thought often overlaps with Stoicism here. Attachment creates pain. Seneca echoed this when he wrote, "He who is brave is free." When you ignore her, you're cutting unhealthy attachment. You're reminding yourself, she is not my source of peace. I am. This doesn't kill love. It makes love healthier, rooted in choice, not in need. Practical application. Meditate daily on impermanence. Everything changes. Everyone can leave. Practice gratitude for her presence, but never dependence on it. Lesson 9. Silence reveals. Truth. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Silence has a strange way of revealing character. When you ignore her, watch how she responds. Does she respect your space or does she lash out? Does she draw nearer or fade away? Silence exposes truth, and truth is what Stoics valued above all illusions. Practical application. Use periods of silence to test reality, not manipulate outcomes. Observe patterns instead of forcing answers. Lesson 10. Focus on what you control. Marcus Aurelius ends it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. You cannot control her reaction to your silence. She may chase harder, she may walk away, but you can control your mindset, your peace, your actions. That's the ultimate Stoic lesson. Mastery of self. Practical application. Every morning, list 3 things you can control today. Focus only on them. Release attachment to her reaction. It's not yours to command. Conclusion. When you ignore her, what happens next can be shocking. She might respect you more, chase you harder, or test you deeply. But here's the truth. None of that is the point. The point is you. Stoicism teaches us that freedom, power, and peace come not from controlling others, but from mastering ourselves. Ignore her not to manipulate, but to discipline yourself, to detach from neediness and to step into the strength of independence. Because the man who can walk away is the man who is truly free.